Peter Charles here of Hooked Fly Fly Fishing, and welcome to my series on getting started in fly fishing. Now, if you wanted to go out and buy your first trout rod, you're going to have to deal with two questions. What line weight do I want to buy, and how long a rod do I want to buy? So let's talk about what's probably the best alternative for you. Length is basically determined by the size of the river you're fishing. If you're fishing a little creek, in a little mountain creek where there's very little back cast room, a long cast might be only 15 feet, you're going to work with, say, a rod around 7 foot long or 7.5 foot long. You're not going to work with something much longer than that. If you were doing a lot of fishing with nymphs, a long rod is very handy, so it's very common for you to be using a 10-foot rod. If you're doing a lot of dry fly fishing, you might want something around 8.5 feet. Because the shorter the rod, the more accurate you are. The longer the rod, the further you can cast and the more line you can manage. So there's a trade-off. How far do we have to cast? You know, how much line do we have to manage, and how accurate do we have to be? So you're not going to go out with, 2 or 3 different rods in your hand. You're going to have to go out with one rod when you go fishing. And also, most of us don't have unlimited budgets. We can't buy dozens and dozens of rods. When you go out and start trout fishing, you're going to go out with one rod. So you might go out with something like this and pick, say, an 8.5 to 9 foot 4-weight. That puts it sort of bang in the middle with the line rating. Between 2 to 6 is common for trout. You pick 4, you're in the middle. It's going to do a little bit of everything. It won't be able to cast as big a fly in the wind as a 6-weight, and it won't be as delicate as a 2-weight. But it's a good all-around line weight. So if you go with a 4-weight, right off the bat, most situations you'll be able to fish just fine. As far as length is concerned, 9 foot is probably the most common length that you can buy in a trout rod. You get something like this, and you can cast a decent length, you can manage a fair amount of line, and you can be reasonably accurate. So it's a compromise. A 4-weight, 9-foot 4-weight is a compromise, but it's a good compromise, and it's a compromise that will let you do a lot of things. Now, some people will suggest a 5-weight instead of a 4, and under certain circumstances that makes sense. You might go with a 5-weight if you tend to, do a lot of streamer fishing, cast some big dry flies, or maybe your river is wide open and you get a lot of wind. So you might go with a 5. Another compelling reason is if you might also be fishing for smallmouth during the middle of the summer. A 5-weight is at the bottom end of the smallmouth range. So you could have one rod and both fish for trout and fish for smallmouth as long as you don't get the fly size too large. So you'll be able to do both. And as I say, as far as length, that's strictly the size of the river. An average river, a 9-foot rod is just fine. If you're going into the little creeks, it's the width of somebody's driveway, then you're better off with a rod around 7 foot or 7.5 foot in that ballpark. So if you're looking for your first starter rod, a 9-foot 4-weight will do the job just nicely. If you need something a little bigger, a little bit more powerful, a 9-foot 5-weight. And the good thing is there's a lot of combo units sold at reasonable prices in 9-foot 4-weights and 9-foot 5-weights. If you have to drop down to an 8.5 foot 4-weight for some combo rigs, that's fine. The 8.5 foot 4-weight will work just fine as well. So there's your first trout rod. Get out there and get one and get fishing. Cheers.